the president's key economic team goes to China.
After a whole night thinking, I say I still want to do it.
Hey there, this is Rui Ma, your China Tech Analyst. Welcome to TechBuzz China Livecasts by Pandaily. As the name suggests, these conversations are recorded live and then edited for your listening pleasure. Some of these chats are open to the public, and we welcome you to join us. So be sure to follow us on Twitter or sign up for our mailing list to get notified. Remember, members of TechBuzz China Insider get priority access. So if you're an investor or operator looking to join the smartest community online focused on China tech, go to techbuzzchina.com and see if you qualify. Extra thanks to our partner pandaily.com, where you can learn everything about China's innovation. Thanks for subscribing, guys, and do give us a review. Hey everyone, I'm so pleased to present this, dare I say, pretty exclusive interview with William Li, the CEO of Akulaku. Now, Akulaku might not be a company you're very familiar with, but that's because you're probably not based in Southeast Asia. It is the largest consumer finance company in Indonesia and a very fast-growing digital bank. And as you'll learn at the end of this episode, the company's actually expanding into regions far beyond Southeast Asia. So maybe you'll see it in your neighborhood soon. Anyway, what does this have to do with China tech, you ask, since that is the topic of our show? Well, as you might have guessed, while it is a Southeast Asian tech company, it is founded by Chinese founders, William's one of them, and it has both Chinese and Southeast Asian management. It's also raised more than $200 million from seed to Series D. You'll recognize some of those investors as being from China, such as Teaming and Ant Group. All right, there's so much more I can say about the company, but I think it's really best you hear it from William's own lips. So here we go. William Li, CEO of Akulaku. Okay, William, I want to welcome you to the show. So I'm based in San Francisco right now, but you just told me that you are calling in from Shenzhen. Is that right?
Yes, one of our R&D centers in Shenzhen, where we have 1,000 developers.
So a lot of our listeners don't know anything about Akulaku. Tell us about yourself and the company, because I think that when I went on Google, there was very little information in English.
Okay, I'm William, the founder and CEO of Akulaku. So before Akulaku, I worked in legal industry and also financing industry for more than 10 years. My co-founder, Gordon, is a senior developer in China, and he worked before in Tencent, also Oracle, and Citic Security. We founded the company in the late stage of 2014. We raised venture capital from IDG, and the idea is quite different. By that time, we want to build up a Bitcoin exchange. We are trying to find an application of a Bitcoin. So when we go to Hong Kong, we find there's a lot of Filipino workers trying to transmit money to their homeland. So we decide to use Bitcoin to exchange money for them. But when we start to try the idea, we find the cost is even higher than the normal international remittance. After 1.5 years operation, our business is maybe $10 million per month transaction volume, and with roughly 35,000 overseas workers using our application. But the banks don't like our business, so we have to pivot in our business. We have a lot of talk with the banks in Indonesia, and we understand that there's a lot of people trying to borrow money, but the normal financial institution doesn't want to entertain them because the ticket size is small and the individual delinquent risk is really high. So they are forced to go to the pawn shops in the Philippines or in Indonesia for small cash borrowing or something. So we decided to use the algorithm and machine learning technology. By that time, it's very prevalent in China. We want to use that kind of a technology in the Southeast Asia, help them to change the lending industry. At the second half of 2016, we launched our Akulaku application in Indonesia and also in Malaysia. In the Philippines later, because the infrastructure in each country is different. Malaysia is relatively rich. Average GDP of the nationals there is about 6,000 to 10,000 US dollar. In Indonesia, it's about 4,000 US dollar. In Philippines, is around 3,500 US dollar. Regarding the infrastructure, actually, Philippines is the weakest because they don't have a unified national ID system to decide whether you are you. Yes, so that's one of the common troubles when you're trying to identify each individual users in the Southeast Asia.
So you
Yes.
started off in Indonesia and Malaysia first.
Yes, at the beginning. The business is for the first 2 or 3 months is actually pretty struggle. So every day there are around maybe 50 phones or 70 phones that were installed from our website. Our website is pretty simple. We offer a lot of cell phones and also laptops. So each individual just buy 10% or 15% down payment and they can get their good and then they're going to repay the remaining principal in the next 6 months or 9 months or 12 months.
It's a buy now, pay later business, basically.
Yes.
Okay, but
Installment
you are selling, but you are actually selling the goods as well.
Yes, at the beginning, nobody knows us. It's very hard to talk with the distributors. So we have to buy a lot of inventory. But luckily, the business is flying very quick after 3 months. So after the maybe some weekend of September, when I opened the console of backend, we find that, oh, this morning there's a 160 phones already ordered. So since then, the business is flying quite fast. In the year 2017, our GMV for the entire platform is already 200 million US dollars.
So do you know at this point, after the first 3 months, what happened? Was it something external or was it just you had refined the product?
I think it's a little bit lucky. It's just the fit of the market by that time. There's a lot of young people in Indonesia. In average, people there is 28 years old. They're trying to buy a lot of cool stuffs, but they have only very little disposable income every month. So I pay, let's say, $30 for a down payment of a cell phone, and then I can use it for the next year. I will repay maybe $10 per month or something. That's a pretty good idea by that time, actually.
So you basically spent money to buy inventory from the distributors. So you were doing e-commerce, except that you also offer pay later, almost like a credit card mechanism.
Yes. That's our business model. Since then, we are operating a e-commerce website and application. And until now, the application still offers a lot of use. So far, we offer roughly 30 million SKUs now.
Oh, yeah. But are you the first party seller or is it a marketplace?
It's a marketplace with a focus of electronic products and home appliances.
Like a JD, except more of a marketplace, and then you're offering the credit. So when we're preparing for this call, that you think the strength is in the algorithm. I assume the algorithm is in the financing part of the business.
Have a lot of applications, not only in the financing part of the application. Firstly, we need to select the good users from the entire pool of applicants. And then by that time, algorithm can help us to do anti-fraud at the beginning. And later, we're going to have very primitive scaling of each user. So for example, what is his income and what is his, let's say, tendency of repayment. And then we're going to make several calculations and offer initially different credit lines and interest rate, and also decide what kind of a product or services is available for a specific individual. In the transaction and after transaction, we still use the algorithm to decide the risk, tendency, and everything. Also in the e-commerce parts, we're using the data and also the algorithm to decide the preference of the buyer. Also, it's an application on the recommendation system. So actually data is very important in our business, from the acquisition sides to the finish of the transaction to the repeating buying.
So would you say that since 2017 to now, the business has then largely remained?
Part of our business is remain roughly the same, except the product we offered become many. Also, we increased more products. So 5 years before, we're just an online version of home credit, very simple. Now, we basically offer digital banking services to everyone. For example, deposit, bank transfer, payment. So for now, the banking service already have more than 3 million users. Our lending business historically served more than 10 million users.
When did you start the banking services, and what were some of the changes in the market that made you think you should go after this sector?
Okay, so at the beginning, at the first year, we start to offer installment services. We understand at the end of the day, we're going to offer full-scale financial services to all the users. The reasons are quite simple. So at the beginning, you have to think about how to repay the money. So if you have a debit card, you can make auto debit, which save a lot of time and people in the collection part or after lending part. Also, in the day-to-day transaction, they tend to purchase maybe some product in other websites, and also you can offer your installment loan or payment services to these users. And then so far, we understand the Indonesia market and also Malaysian market is quite underserved, actually. The bank system is quite discriminating for general public because they're not revenue generating. They tend to use not that many of the payments or wealth management products. And therefore, the banks don't have that many of a deposit from these kind of individuals. And then, so their main revenue is actually the lending to big corporate or relatively large private corporates. That's a very huge difference between traditional banking and digital banking, because in digital banking, you run an algorithm, you run an app, and you can maintain a massive number of individuals at the same time and still make the service attractive and the fee is quite low. So the reason why we start our banking service is also because our main revenue is from lending activities. If you have your own deposit, and then the funding cost will be lower significantly. So give you a sense, like in Indonesia, the inflation rate is around 4% or 5% per year. The average deposit rate for 1 year deposit is around 6% to 7%. Some small bank even offer for 8% or 9%. But the lending rate in Indonesia is maybe 30% to 70%, depending on the ticket size and also depending on the product type. So for example, motorcycle loan, the real rate for every year is around maybe 50%.
50.
Yes.
Wow, that's very high. Okay. So you are saying that Akulaku can do much better than that, a much more competitive rate.
Yes, we offer roughly 40% per year for unsecured loan if you buy or sell them. However, I think maybe if you just look at the lending business, rates is just one thing that you should consider because they have other considerations. For example, the ticket size. So if the ticket size is just $5, even you just charge, let's say $50 for 2 months, if you annualize it, it's still like 50% or 70% interest rate, which is quite scary. Consider all the costs there. For example, risk control cost, you need to pay some fee for KYC, you need to pay for the payment cost, everything. If you combine it together, it's still a fixed amount of money you need to charge upon every transaction. So I think that's one of the misunderstanding of online installment or online lending. People believe the rate decides the nature of the business. Actually, it's not only the rates, it's also the tenure and also the purpose and also the principle. Also, you need to consider all the cost to perform a transaction, everything together.
Let me go back a little bit, and then because you had mentioned earlier that the Indonesian market, where the traditional banks really don't serve the individual customers very well because they're focused on higher margin businesses, principally lending to enterprises. That sounds very similar to me as what many of the complaints about the China banking system is. How similar would you say the problems are between the two ecosystems?
We can compare Hong Kong, China, and Indonesia. I think if you talk about affordability of banking services, Chinese banking system is definitely the cheapest banking system in the world. And inclusive finance is also perhaps the best around the three regions because they have a very strong central government to promote the financial services, to reduce the rates, to reduce the fee.
Wow, okay.
Hong Kong is definitely the worst. I think banks still have very little incentive to change, and then they are very hostile to individual users. Indonesia is in the middle of it in terms of debit and account open, but the infrastructure is relatively behind. So still a lot of users, they have bank account, but they use a bank book, account book. So it's like a small book. Every time you deposit money or you withdraw the money, the cashier is gonna print the record in the book. There are a lot of people start to use debit card, but ATM machine is not working very well. So for example, not all the bank card can make bank transfer in the ATM, or even not all the bank card can withdraw the money from the ATM. You still need to go through a lot of procedures. So our service is forget about the bank card. You use your applications. Our banking service is totally in the application. You open an app, you make deposit, you make bank transfer, or you withdraw the cash even from the place that we designated, for example, convenience stores, 7-Eleven. So that's actually the trend in Indonesia. A lot of internet players start to realize this is the future of banking. And then also some traditional banks, very big banks start to explore on this direction.
Well, what you're saying sounds like actually very similar to what we're seeing in some other developing economies. Is there another fintech unicorn, maybe another part of the world that you would say Akulaku is most like?
Really rare, because a lot of people question. So you also operate a e-commerce platform. So how can you be so sure that you can good at both? If you look at around, people emphasize the idea e-commerce is e-commerce, finance is finance. These two kind of things are totally different. But we have a really in a unique position. At the first year of our operation, there are a lot of venture capitals tell me this is not going to work because you're running two things together. However, I think for lending activities or banking activities to run a e-commerce actually do a lot of help. So firstly, I think all the financial institutions have the struggle to acquire new users. The way of acquiring new users is just very straightforward and very expensive. And if you run e-commerce, then you have plenty of ways to attract new users. For example, group buy, for example, flash sales, for example, the newest type of phone can be offered at a very affordable price in our platform. So there are a lot of ways to acquire new users. So that's the reason why for every month, it's roughly 400,000 or 500,000 new KYC users. Secondly, you have a better understanding of how these people are going to use. If you just have straightforward lending of cash, then you don't know the purpose of the lending. Remember one thing, in Southeast Asia, the delinquent ratio is maybe 10 times higher than that in China. Yeah, maybe 3 times higher in America or in Europe in general. So knowing the purpose of lending is very important.
Why do you think that is?
I think that's a combination of several elements. So firstly, the development of economy is just in that level. So the natural delinquent tendency is just higher. For example, in China, unsecured credit loan over offer this service is around maybe 1.5% to 2%. In America, depending on your FICO score, but in average 5%. In Indonesia, this number is around 14% to 15% at the beginning when we run the business. But now we reduce it to roughly 5% to 6%.
Through machine learning. Mm-hmm.
Yes, using the algorithm, but algorithm is not rare. Everybody can have their own algorithm. The most important thing is you have the data. That's the value of e-commerce. You understand people's behavior, and then you can make analysis from different angles, and then you can have better results.
It seems to me that what you're describing is just Alibaba.
We're not trying to be Alibaba. Our e-commerce is quite conservative. We only focus on the stuff in the category that we're good at, only home appliances and electronics. Suppliers, supply chains are relatively stable in these two categories. Once you establish trust, and then you can go deep into it. Actually, I mentioned that we have roughly 1,000 people in Shenzhen and maybe 800 developers. Maybe 40% of them is for data and the risk controls. Remaining of them for infrastructures like data warehouse, like security. So that's the strategy, to build up something that is unique. Once you have e-commerce, you can offer loan or offer installment directly in your application. You can also partner with third party. We basically partner with every major e-commerce in Indonesia and also some other internet companies to offer visual credit card services or lending services, depending on their demand. So far, third-party partnership transactions represent about 25% of the total GMV we have.
Got it. So you said that earlier, this interesting combination you have of e-commerce plus lending was not really well understood by your investors, but you did have Alibaba as one of your later investors. So they got it then. They understood.
I'm not sure. The most important thing is substance, is not the form. The substance is there's a quick growing business and they are looking for the market leader by that time in this region. We're basically the number one for consumer financing. We already have roughly 700,000 borrowers every month.
Every month, new borrowers every month. Okay, wow.
That is the number roughly 2.5 years. And now every month is around 5 million users.
So we spent like the whole past half hour explaining what Akulaku is. If you had to use just one sentence to describe it, how would you describe it?
Akulaku is offering digital banking services to the people in Southeast Asia. And the vision of the company is to build up a payment network for visual credit and also debiting services.
You didn't mention the e-commerce at all.
Yeah, e-commerce is just a form, it's not a substance.
But would you say that you are the leading consumer finance company in Indonesia?
It is.
And now you are also focusing on the digital banking side as well.
Yes, and then the digital banking service is growing quite quick. So for example, every month there are around 2 million new accounts open.
Okay, I think looking at your background is so interesting. So you grew up in China, right?
Yeah.
And then you went to the US, then you returned to China and had about a decade of working experience before you started. And at the time, you weren't necessarily looking to start a business in Southeast Asia. You were just doing your Bitcoin thing. And then Southeast Asia just happened to be an opportunity. When you look back now on those decisions, is working in Southeast Asia one of the best decisions you made?
I think my experience, a brave ape that is immigrating from the north part of the earth and finally find a place in the south of equator.
Like a monkey? Great ape? Okay. Why do you say that?
So I was born in Jilin province in China. So
Yeah, very
if
cold.
people don't know where Jilin is, they have a shared border with the North Korea. Yeah, and then I finished my high school there and I studied in Tsinghua University in Beijing. After that, I work in King & Wood Medicine, which is a law firm in Beijing. And then I go to Shenzhen and I work in Ping An Insurance, which is one of the largest financial conglomerate in China for 3 years. Before I work, I actually attend a law master degree in United States. And finally, I start to have some business, real business in Indonesia, in the Southeast Asia. So if you look at this as like a human history, we're basically monkeys, apes in Africa originally, and then they walk for a very long distance across many rivers, oceans, and then they become widespread in the world. So I think these two kind of experience have some similarity. You just walk towards a direction and finally you find some place to settle.
Okay, you went from all the way the northern part of China to doing business in Indonesia, so where it's much warmer near the equator. I guess what I want to ask is, a lot of people talk about the advantages Chinese entrepreneurs have working in developing markets such as Indonesia. In your opinion, what are some of the advantages and disadvantages?
Advantages is quite obvious. You have experienced the industry in China, no matter you are a participant or not. So basically, we are observer for the development of an internet industry in China. But we also talk with people in the circle. How do they compete with each other? How do they organize very effective culture for engineers? And also, there's a huge talent pool in China. You can hire as many as you want, engineers, developers, to do whatever you want. There's no shortage of a talent. Disadvantage is people have always some maybe bias or prototype. So they don't believe normally that Chinese entrepreneurs can really doing pretty well in places outside China. That's a misunderstanding. Also, people sometimes believe the reason why you can't do business in China is because you're weak. You can't compete with the entrepreneurs in China. So that's the reason why you try to avoid the competition and find a place. But I think maybe they're right. By that time, I am weak. However, as a survival strategy is not to pick up the fight you can't win at the beginning, right? Maybe at the end of the day, we can go back to China.
How competitive is the market today? Do you have any advice for entrepreneurs looking to get started and trying to enter Southeast Asia? Is it too competitive to come? Is it like China now? Or what do you think?
So firstly, I think the environment is totally changed. By that time, we start to offer our own business. Tokopedia only maybe 30 million US dollar per month. And now they merged with Gojek already. And Gojek by that time only valued at around 300 million US dollar. There are still, maybe by that time, there are 20 e-commerce. Everybody claimed they're the best. And now basically these small players vanish. There's only a war of big guys relative. If you're talking about operational matrix, actually in this region, I guess nobody is as big as Alibaba or Tencent in China. In terms of development stage and then the funding everybody get is actually quite competitive. Every lane there are players with maybe more than 300 million cash at their pockets. That's the situation. I think the market is actually quite competitive. People normally underestimate the competition here. The reason of it is because the customers in Southeast Asia can't spend a lot of money. Ticket size is inherently small. For example, Pinduoduo in China, they offer maybe $1 product or $2 product. People already think that's very affordable, but that's the average ticket size in Indonesia. Also, supply chain and merchant resource is not that well established. In China, if you want to build up a platform, product is not something that you need. They are very mature product lines and over supply of the capacities for every factory. That's not the same in Indonesia. There's a big ocean in between the two worlds. So the shipment of product become inconvenient. The cost of international trade become very high. The local factories are not well established. So there's a lot of difficulties. The performance of the business, for example, when you perform a contract, the cost is relatively high. Payment cost, shipment, everything. What left in between, the net margin for each business is still very thin or even negative for most of the startup here. So I guess if people can really success in Indonesia, they probably can success in some other country. That's also our own thinking. So for this year, we decide to expand our Europe business.
Western Europe or Eastern Europe?
Western, of course.
So basically, your goal is not necessarily to be focusing on Southeast Asia, but to go wherever you see market opportunity.
Whenever our technology can be applied, our experience can be applied, we can go there. There are several reasons behind this decision. So firstly, our business model is actually quite unique. We operate e-commerce and also financial services at the same time. Our advantage is we have experience of this kind of arrangement, and then the code is just there, the application is there. We make some minor adjustment, and then they could be adaptive to a new market. Secondly, the supply chain for internet trade is in China. Especially recently, there's a lot of merchant that is sanctioned by Amazon. They want a new platform help them to sell the product. The product is just very good. The reason I think they get delisted is just quite arbitrary. I think that's the arrogance, but basically that's a good chance for us. Thinking about this, in China, there may be 1 billion SKUs that's already shipped overseas, waiting to be sold to the customers. And also in Indonesia, the delinquent ratio is pretty high. In Europe, the natural delinquent ratio is just very low. We are very adaptive to a more dangerous environment, and now we're entering into some safer environment. And then, as I said, Indonesia is basically competitive. In Europe, we believe that there's still plenty of room for new entrants.
Interesting. And I was just thinking that because you have a legal background, do you think that helps you in doing a business Akulaku where there's such a huge part of the business that is about risk management and KYC, and especially when you're operating abroad, trying to understand the local regulations? Does that help?
It certainly helped because I was trained in the probably best law school in China and also top tier law school in United States. Talking with the regulators and also to understand the regulatory environment in financial industry is quite important. On the other side, I think the law background helped me in the way like I'm really ignorant in the internet world. So just trying to find the best people and delegate as many as I can to these people is really a key to success. And also the law degree trained my language a lot.
What are some of the learnings you have from running your business, especially in Southeast Asia, that you would like to share with other entrepreneurs?
Think more before you start. And that's very important. Whether you really like the thing you're gonna do. Because entrepreneurs, they're not rich kids, they're ordinary people. Mm-hmm. One of the drive for them to change the current life is financially they get the return, which is also part of the reason I started a business. It's really a tough journey. So when you go through this, it really tests your patience and your determination. You have to really like and love the business in order to stay there. Especially as a CEO or the top management, you're probably the last people get off the boat. So you have to be mentally prepared for this crucial fact. What is the driver make you to believe that you can fight alone without hesitation? I think it's maybe the love of the thing you did or you were gonna do. That's very important.
Earlier, you mentioned that there was a reason why Akulaku does not have much of an English presence. It's really impossible to find information on you guys in English. What is the reason for that?
Because, yeah, as I said, we were weak. We were worried about we get some unnecessary attention by a lot of potential competitors. So, for example, before 2019, still there are a lot of Chinese fintech is trying to enter into Indonesia. We have to be cautious about it to acknowledge that they're basically stronger by that time. So we have to keep low profile. Yeah, and also doing a financial business, keeping low profile is very important. No regulator want to see a Elon Musk in the industry. There is a quite regulated industry. So yeah, you don't do and cause unnecessary noise to make other people uncomfortable.
You just mentioned that there were a lot of Chinese fintech companies eyeing this same market that you're operating in. Are they still trying to come into the market? Do you think they're going to be successful? Have they been successful? Or do you think it's just too late and you guys have a lead?
One cycle already passed. So firstly, the fintech, and then some other big companies like Xiaomi, like Oppo and Vivo, and then maybe Ant Financial, Tencent. And then COVID-19 let all of them go.
So not much competition from Chinese companies, more local competition though. Are you more worried about the banks or other internet companies?
We actually, the experience we have learned so far is you don't worry about other people, worry about yourself. I think the only thing can beat us is maybe proud or maybe careless or reckless. If we use our caution, use our technology, we can still go bigger and bigger. During the pandemic, our business actually is growing 30% year over year. For this year, our business is growing around 200% comparing with 2020.
Wow. Okay. You said earlier that your staff in Indonesia is mostly the operational staff. So operations, sales people.
Or management there. Because according to the law of Indonesia, you have to set up the entire business over there. So actually, Akulaku is offering only algorithm and then applications for the people there. And then in Indonesia, we store the data. And then in Indonesia, we make analysis of the data.
So the data never leaves the country. Your Shenzhen engineers just make the algorithm. And you must have a lot of engineers in Indonesia as well then to analyze the data.
Yeah, probably 100.
What is one thing that you think people are always getting wrong about your business? I know you actually mentioned quite a few earlier, but is there something else, like one thing that people always get wrong about your business or the sector that you're in that you want to clarify?
Okay, so we're not a lender. We actually is the new Visa.
You are not a lender. You are actually the new Visa. Is that your pitch to your investors?
Not yet. Our style is we deliver first and then we talk later. For this year, actually, our number of active order user is probably more than 12 million or 30 million. And then our GMV for the entire corporate is totally more than maybe 6 billion. And then the revenue is more than 500 million US dollar.
That is definitely a very respectably sized business, especially from an emerging market.
Yes, but comparing with the things we're going to do, I think we have a lot of room or potential to grow the business. At least in the Indonesian side, we can grow our business maybe 5 times or 10 times in the coming 3 years, basically. And then in the Europe, I think we can create a equivalent or even bigger business in the 3 years.
Besides Europe, are you looking at Latin America, Middle East?
We're still trying to be focused. By our own analysis, maybe Europe market is better. European is a relatively more balanced market. So there are many countries. In every country, there are maybe multiple players over there. So we have a plenty of room to either partner with third party or build up our own.
So basically the other geographies have players who are trying to do everything, but in Europe, not everyone's trying to do everything. So you can probably find some.
Yes, that's true.
That's it, everyone. Thanks for listening. And if you're really serious about China tech, join our insider community. You do have to take a quiz, so make sure you listen to all of our past episodes on China tech on our main TechBuzz China podcast. Also, a huge thank you to our editors, Carrie Huang and Bryce Ye, and of course, the entire Pandaily team for all of your help. See you next time.